Today, me and Mike are going to be answering a question that we have gotten a bunch, and since you clicked on this video, you have probably also have this question. How do you find good podcast guests? Well, first of all, Mike, I wanted to ask you, where do you actually go out and find these guests?
I find guests for our podcast in all sorts of places, in person business meetups, on LinkedIn. Sometimes I find them because I've read an article on the internet and I think the author might be an interesting guest for the show. And of course, networking. I put the word out to previous guests saying, hey, we're looking for guests for the next season. Who would you recommend? Who would you like to see us interview? So those are my sources.
What would you say, what source actually, also on the topic, would you say give the highest quality of guests?
The word of mouth. When someone's come on the show, they've experienced the feeling and the excitement of being here with us, and they've had that very positive experience. Then when I ask who else would they like to see us interview, 100% so far, over 4 years, 100% of the people that have been referred that way have come on our show.
And to that, if you just starting out, you can't have that many referrals because you might not even interviewed anybody yet. Go out and think to yourself, where do I find interesting people to speak to? Because interesting makes for good content. Weird makes for good content. The more extreme and the more left field something is, the better content it is normally. So, secondly, and this is something that we all often discuss with all of our guests, is this person actually a good fit? Because me and Mike host a podcast together, so we got to make sure that they fit both of our personalities and also our audience, which is very important. Because I might be able to have an amazing conversation with a person and think this would be amazing, but when I really ask myself, would this make good content and actually interest the people we're aiming our content at? Then the answer is a no. So, how do you make sure, first of all, that they're the right kind of fit for your podcast?
The first thing is really unquantifiable, meaning that it can't be measured. When I have the video call with the person, the pre call, I figure out, do we have a similar vibe and are we going to sync well in a podcast? Our podcast is not rehearsed, it's not scripted. And so it has to be a natural flow of conversation during that pre call. If that's not happening, I try to identify what we could do to fix it. If we can't fix it, then we just say, well, it's not going to work on the show. If it's a natural flow of conversation, then I know bringing them on the show is going to be a good idea because I will be able to extract things from them that are going to be fun and interesting for the audience.
Also, to that, I like to find people that necessarily not have been on a podcast before, just because I want to make something unique, different, and that's by you do that best by finding new people. The final question I have for you, Mike, is why do we love having podcast guests on our podcast?
I love it because I get to meet new people who are doing interesting things. I get to hear their story, which is something I always love to do. And sometimes there's a way that we can work together, which just leads to more networking. So these are all positives. And it's just spreading good cheer. It's spreading good business sense amongst other people. It helps everybody. That's
E-
why I love doing it.
Exactly, exactly. And as Mike mentioned, it's a great way to meet new people. It's a great excuse to get on a call with a person you would like to get connected to, get to know for whatever reason, and just to get to know them better. People nowadays completely love podcasting, which is why we made this video. If you find it valuable in any sort of way, make sure to click like. Any questions, drop them down below in the comments. Will let us know what, in generally, what did you think about this? A little bit of a different video.